Maybe. Okay. Everything's speeding. He's walking away.
Hold on, Max, just a second.
Or maybe turn off the second Martin. Martin, can you power yours off? Just had a little audio interference. Yep. Is that better? No problems yet. Why don't you have to talk to you for a minute? Can you say a few words? Or are we to
Testing, testing. Is it coming through clear?
Sounds good.
Okay. So, I lived on this street. We had neighbors. And today these homes are gone. Everything has been changed, drastically changed. Across the street lived the Klinka family, and Ili Klinka, she was a good friend of my mother and my aunt. She was a very cultured lady. She had a grand piano. Her son went to school with me. And in the summer, on a hot evening, when all the farmers have come back from the field, the windows are open because nobody had air conditioning. She was playing her piano. And Chopin, I understood this later, because when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 year, 11-year-old, I didn't know much about composers, Chopin, but she always played her piano at dusk. And I was practically glued under her window listening to this amazing music. And I think that she taught me the love of music. And the irony of it was that when I arrived in Auschwitz, there was a men's orchestra. And it continued. The orchestra kept me alive. The music was the only thing that was normal there. So she was a very brave woman. In 1944, when the gendarmes came into our home, yelling and screaming, she came running in to our home. The gendarmes were yelling at her, "Get out of here, this is not your business." And she stood her ground. She said to my mother, "Ethel, where are you taking this baby? Why don't you leave the baby with me?" I will never forget that. I think about it, and I will as long as I live. Had my mother left my little sister, my baby sister, with her, perhaps she would have survived. I will never know. This happened to many Jewish families who left their children with neighbors, Christian neighbors. So she was one brave person. When I came back from the camps, it was probably the end of July of 45. I was walking down this road. A farmer dropped me in that little town. I just forget the name of it right now. And I was walking down towards the house. I was in dire straits. I was very sick. I had wet pleurisy, I didn't know. My body was blown up full of water. I was wearing a Hitler Youth shirt and corduroy breeches. I had to cut the pants down because my legs were swollen so badly. And I kept walking, and I knew that if Farkas was alive, I was looking at this house. I was fixed on looking at this house. I was coming back a year later. I was away a year. That seemed to me like I was away a million years. And when I was just before the railway tracks, Farkas would have known my Alsatian that I was coming home. He would be flying through the gate, coming to greet me. I came closer and closer. This was a dead place. Nothing was moving here. We had all the livestock, chickens, geese, ducks, my 2 fox terriers, and Farkas. I opened the door to my mother's kitchen. A neighbor, and I'm not sure what her name was, I can't remember, somewhere from this street. So we had people who were wonderful people and people who moved into my home. When I told her who I was, she was not happy to see me. She wouldn't give me a glass of water. So this was my homecoming. I went to look for Lily Klinka. This house was closed, and she moved into the center of the city. Her husband was working for the provincial government, and she was the only one that I could have gone. And when she saw me, she practically screamed out, because what I looked like, she knew that I was in mortal danger. So she did for me what my mother would have done had I come back from a terrible journey, all beaten up. She gave me a bath. She gave me some clothes, and she arranged with a farmer to take me back to Košice, to St. Elizabeth Hospital. We had to wait for this farmer until he came back from the work at the end of the day. He needed to rest his horses for a few hours, feed them, and we left. I was put up on this cart with a bale of hay behind me because I couldn't lay down. The water was right up to my throat here. I couldn't breathe. Every bump was a painful journey because at that time this road was not paved. And it was a beautiful starry night. So she gave me a bath and I was relaxing. She had a beautiful garden. And I will never forget. And she played the piano. She played a piece from Chopin. And off I went to St. Elizabeth Hospital. The nurses were all nuns. And I spent about 2 months in the hospital. I was undressed by the nurses, given a hospital smock. And I was thinking that I never want to leave this place. This was the first time in a year, which seemed like a million years, that I slept in a clean bed with a mattress and clean sheets. So I remember a few of my neighbors. They were Roma people here in this town. Down near the river Postw were the Roma people who lived under terrible conditions in mud huts. They were making mud bricks. And down the street, there were the white Roma who were musicians. And one of the families, their daughter was in the same class as I was. We used to walk together. She was a beautiful girl. And there was a ferry tote who was down the street, but that house is gone. It was a good friend of mine. I remember they had a huge mulberry tree and a big swing. So we had relations with many of these people here. Jews practically made this town work for generations. They helped each other, they did business with each other. my grandfather, the 10 carts that would park here for market day, they would buy lumber. My grandfather would take out his big ledger binder and lick this pencil. It was an indelible ink, and he put it in. So and so bought so many 2x4s. At the end of the season, they would barter. They would bring in livestock, ducks or geese, or grain. And this is the way life went on here. It was an amazing, wonderful life. This was such an organized, beautiful community here. It had a rhythm. I remember my friends, all these beautiful girls. Vera Lazarovich was one of them. She was a tall, lanky girl. She was a year ahead of me. She had these long braids. And all that is but a memory today. And there are many towns and villages and cities here in Slovakia, in Hungary, where there's not a single Jew living anymore. Okay. I think that's what Martin wanted me. Oh, there is Martin.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay.
Pat?
Okay.
Water?
Yeah.